ma'am.
Okay, I'd like to call the Baldwin City Council meeting for March 25th, 2024 to order. If you will stand for the invocation and pledge, please. Father God, we thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for allowing us to gather, to assemble. Be with us as we make wise decisions this evening. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank everybody for being here this evening. We have one council member who is keeping his germs at home. We appreciate that. So Martin Venter is present. He's on the phone with us here. So Martin, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, everybody.
It's okay. Thank you for the decision. Okay, our first item of business tonight is our consent agenda, approval of the minutes, executive session 2/12/2024, and council meeting 3/11/24. Has everybody had an opportunity to see the minutes? Comments, corrections, concerns? Okay. All those in favor, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Venter. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Satterfield. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. Passed unanimously. Thank you. Okay, our first public comments. Are there any Baldwin citizens who have business with the council this evening? Please come forward, state your name and address.
We go stand over there?
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Nick Shirley. My address is 490 Highland Point Drive. Hi, and just two issues of our neighborhood that I'd like to present to the council. We have a lot of conjecture amongst homeowners and residents in our neighborhood about who the roadway actually belongs to. There's conjecture whether it was developed through the developer and was supposed to have an HOA and passed off to that, or if it was passed off to the city. We're just not sure. So we don't know what route to take to get it fixed. The state of that road is it's horrible. There's potholes 6 inches, 12 inches deep. We've got manhole covers that are sticking out the roadway. It's just, every 20, 30 feet you're driving, you're swerving to miss a pothole, you're swerving to miss the manhole. It's horrible. And I just wanted to present that to you guys as step one, because we live there. We don't want to drive down and hit potholes all the time. So I want to put that to your attention. The second issue is right directly in front of my house. It's a downhill grade. So we've got vehicles 20, 30 in the afternoon going by it at what I would assume to be an excessive rate of speed. It's probably 30, 35 miles an hour. And they're small yards in that neighborhood. My kids play 10, 15 feet away from there. I want them to be safe playing in my yard because it's small. There's nowhere else for them to play. And so I would like to request that some speed tables be installed through Highland Point Drive. Trojan Lane is also a road that needs amending, the speed tables as well. And Dawn Point, I believe. Place. Dawn Place. Thank you.
She's a former resident come and talk to us about that place as well, but I think she's since sold her house.
Yeah.
And moved. Do you have any consensus among your neighbors about the speed tables?
I haven't reached out to them about the speed tables. I've reached out to them about the general speed issue, and they all agree. So I'm sure I could get the majority on board, if not 100%.
So one of the things that we did a couple of years ago for Wilbanks Road, or Wilbanks Street, or off of Airport Road, was we sent a letter out to all of the residents of that neighborhood and asked them if they were interested in it. I recommend that we do that. I think that's a great place to start. Have them reach out to us, let us know how they feel about it. And if there's a majority of them, then we can look into it. Now that road still at this time is not completed. That was a development that sat vacant after the 08. And it was supposed to be 70% complete, and then the developer would pave the road. Well, that didn't happen because the primary permittee for the project obviously no longer had a vested interest in it, they were just selling the land. So the city in 2009 or 2010 accepted those roads into their road system. So those cities belong to the city.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's just no posted speed limit, you know, and it's probably 25 miles an hour legally, but it shouldn't be 25 miles an hour.
It probably should be 15.
Yeah.
It's 15
Yeah.
in your neighborhood.
I live in Chandler Heights, and it's posted at 15.
Right.
We have a citizen who comes and mentions all the time that, you know, even delivery people
Mhm.
don't follow the 15
Correct.
miles an
Yeah.
hour. So, yeah, that's an issue. All right, so the first thing we can do is the letter to all the residents to see how they feel about the speed table. Secondarily, we've accepted the road, okay? And then we can look into that as a project. Scott, where are we?
Actually, that road is on my topic list for our spring retreat.
Okay.
The reason that the manhole covers are up there is because, again, they put a base coat. You leave the manholes up a little higher, so when you come in with the permanent coat, they're flush.
Yeah.
It affects us in the wintertime. The only thing we can do is salt those roads. We can't plow them because we just rip the plow off. So yeah, but that's the number one road on my list this spring.
Well, and your driveways are at a strange.
It's quite above, yes ma'am.
Okay,
Yes.
so the driveways are so far above the road because it's not really built up.
Correct.
Yeah, and you're not the first person that has come to speak to us about speed bumps. So any work, in my experience, any work that you can do in reaching out to and talking with your neighbors and getting support in addition to the letter that the city can send, I would highly recommend. Yeah, there are a lot of children in that neighborhood, little kids.
Correct.
And I'm very sensitive to the running out. They're just playing and they're not in their head about where's the cars coming from.
Right.
And the cars that are speeding through there obviously don't even have enough self-respect to drive slowly in a neighborhood for children.
Right.
So we can't depend on them.
Okay, how would you like that correspondence, or how do I get that to you? If I go collect yes or no votes, or whatever it may be, how do I get that to you guys?
You can always come back here.
Okay.
Or you can work with Ms. Woodmaster, deliver her, you know, you have this many signatures, for example, or come back and tell us, or bring people
Okay,
with you to the council meeting. We would love to see that.
excellent.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, appreciate it. Anybody else?
I got next.
All right.
Yep.
Black Overacker, 175 Maltmill Drive, here in Baldwin. We're back again. Just want to, I feel for these guys. You know, we live off the side of the road, there's only just a few of us, but, you know, maybe for him, I heard that, and I'm just saying that in my business, coming into quarries and stuff like that, clear signage helps us with the speeders. We got guys coming with dump trucks down a hill 50 miles an hour. No way, no how you should be doing that. There's no kids out there, gratefully, but you know, some signs or the speed limits blinking sign. We got a couple of them in the system, and then I think they've got police here too, right? Can start doing something and nab a couple of them guys. But anyway, I'm here for the water. So, any updates or?
Ms. Woodmaster, do we have updates?
I don't have any at this time.
So we have a water group meeting that happens here every month. Yeah, and so we've had a little bit of discussion amongst one another about that. I've actually also spoken with our engineering firm. I've spoken with our public works director to kind of look at what that might look like. One of the things that we're up against is that our bond is tied to that infrastructure. So we have to involve our attorney and ask, you know, his guidance on that. But it's something that we're very positively speaking, like we're definitely in a place where we are willing to discover if it's even a possibility. So, you know,
Possibility of
Banks County, you said that the commissioner, Bo
Garrison.
Garrison.
Yeah, they was interested, you know,
Yeah.
10 or 15 years ago. They still got, you know,
Yeah.
they're having their own issues,
Yeah.
you know, with the boom and Banks Crossing, so.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So, my intentions were personally to reach out to Bo and also a couple of the other commissioners and just have a conversation with them as well.
Okay.
It's, as you found out in our last meeting, is a huge concern is those water lines. Not only just,
Yeah.
I mean, even just from a service delivery standpoint, firefighters, needing to be able to, the lines aren't big enough out there.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was something we didn't even discuss then, I don't believe we did, is the insurance and the fire hydrants
Yes.
that we'd have would be great. And
ISO.
all of our other people that we got, most of the people in Banks County, I'm pretty sure has got a fire hydrant within the limits, so.
Yes.
Yeah, we just like to get upgraded, and, we had 3 people wanting water. Now we're down to 2. The other old boy had to go drill him a well. That was $15,000 or so,
Yeah,
and, bump it into whatever he did, so.
yeah, yeah.
So now we got 2, and they're slow go, they're not gonna be ready by the end of the year, probably so.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can resolve something, and get it done, so.
Yeah, definitely. So, and that, just know that there's still conversation going on about that. And, again, the biggest issue is our bonds. Can we turn over the infrastructure?
Yeah, I'm good with, definitely let them get it, then they gotta do something, but y'all got money, or we got money in the engineering of that thing, how could, engineering's not cheap, that was tens of thousands of dollars that's gonna be wasted. And all you gotta do is buy some pipe and put some of that money that the bond, whatever bond you're talking about, it couldn't have been much of a bond for what we got. If you repaired, if a bond was to spend money to do that little upgrade, that thing,
Yeah.
tens of thousands of dollars, I can't imagine it being more than that. Cause all they did was come there and fix a, loop system with a 2-inch line.
Yeah. Well, our bond is
attached further than just that.
right, is attached to our entire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, even right
There's a
down
lot
to
more
our.
to it.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
Even right to our relationship with the city of Demorest and our water sales. So it's massively complicated.
It's not just real easy like that.
Yeah, I wish it were.
Right.
I would draw that paperwork up right now.
That's
I
right.
really would. But your coming here, with our last meeting really sparked
Okay, well,
sparked some conversation.
and I'd like to, just to further to, this don't work out with Banks County, and it'd take them a while, but definitely, I'd like a brand new pipe. But, what Scott does, the water, whatever engineering or something that can test, we're down to 2. We've had more than 2 get off that line. More than 2. We had 4 chicken houses.
Yeah.
What else is on this? That's not on that line anymore. So now we're asking for 2. There's 2 water meters, not hooked to anything anymore. So at some point, someone said we could hook them on. The chicken house has been there for 40 plus years, I guess, or longer.
Yeah.
And never came through, so if this don't work out, I would like to see some more engineering, not just look at that grade and up through there, something on paper say, there's no way, no how that these guys should hook up 2 more people.
I think it has more to do, I might be wrong, so please, Fletcher and Scott, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it's the amount, the capacity, I think it has to do with the condition of the actual lines. Is that right or wrong?
It's a capacity, you're only allowed to make so many service connections on each size of pipe. So it's
Okay.
2-inch pipe,
Yeah.
I think it's,
It's all based on the size.
based on the size of the pipe, how many connections you're allowed from the EPD to make, you have on that line.
I
So,
gotcha. Even if they're active or not.
active or not, how many
Gotcha.
connections.
Okay.
Yeah. So we could cap them.
We can, you got 2 chicken houses off, but you still have to, did they have more than they were allowed to in the beginning, and as they're losing them, you're just not putting any more back to try to get it down to that number. That's basically what you're looking at now.
Yeah, we can definitely work that out, because he's one of the owners of 2 chicken houses. And, and if you ever got water, if you ever got the lines, I know there's issues on other areas in streets, but this guy's sitting on a well that's 500 foot deep. Can't help anybody, can't help my son, can't help his son, but he could help the county, not the county, but the city with water, furnishing water. It's 500 foot deep of just pure, nice water. So if you would redo the lines, in my mind, because I know, you know, Homer, the city of Homer's got numerous wells around, and I don't know how they meter it or, you know, pay someone for the water, but he has got a great well there that could help in a drought if we have a drought. I hope we don't have another drought, but,
Yeah, no kidding, yeah.
so,
So was that well fed your chicken houses?
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of gallons per minute?
No, I know it's, 500 foot and it's 50 foot from the top.
Gotcha, interesting.
If it's supplied it for human.
At one time,
I say there's all kinds of other
Oh, yeah,
testing and filters and all kinds of other.
it supplied 3 chicken houses
Yeah.
at one time.
yeah, wow, yep. I wonder if we, actually, this would be a you question. No, you don't want that question? We can hold that question. Yeah.
yeah. That don't help the line, what the line looks like inside. And I'd say, you know, Scott's been here for a while, but I would say, even guessing how big the line is, who's gonna know?
Yeah.
Because when they put them lines in, they was just doing and fixing them. These guys do quality work. The other guys come there with the backhoe, just pull the line up. That's why it's in such bad shape, in my opinion.
Yeah.
To find the leak, they just pulled it up and it was stressing at another level. So it was just,
Yeah.
you know, poor
Yeah,
workmanship.
What you do right there is.
Yeah, it's in the mud.
Public water, public water all the way down.
They did it a long time ago, they were, one of these buggers, they got that water run down there, didn't they?
Yep.
Most of the time you drill a well, building out in the country like that.
Yeah. Well, Banks County has water lines up and down Wind Lake too, right? Yeah.
Right next
They-
door.
They really try to get the water infrastructure out there, because that helps offset your property taxes, so. So that's a good thing for them. I really would like to have some discussion with the commissioners as well. And we also have our retreat, we were just talking about in April, towards the end of April.
Uh-huh.
And this is where we actually talk about these issues. It's 2 days, 2 8-hour days straight that we look at that. And I think I mentioned to you also in the last meeting that we had our CIP, capital improvement, list, redone. So it's updated. While we've completed a lot of projects, that remains to be one of the most important. Because we need to make sure that we're not losing water, and that water gets supplied down there, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we can ask for is to work together. And it's been a long time, so that's all I can ask.
I have cards of mine in the car, so if you don't mind staying until after the meeting, I can give you a card
Yeah,
of mine.
I'm kind of on a short time. I'm out of town, and we almost forgot about this. So I'll get with you. I got your name there, and I'll touch base with one of the ladies in the office.
Can you make sure that Sarah has her phone number?
Okay.
To-
Yeah. Well, Scott's got. I can text Scott everything.
Yeah.
We got a good relationship.
Good.
So, all right. Thank y'all.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Any other Rockland citizens? Okay. There are no public hearings this evening. The next item of business is a report from Public Works. Scott?
Going to tell us you're fixing that
Get
line,
my notes
right?
Well, I'm not gonna beat mountain system to death, but that was on here.
Yes.
Some of the projects, well, we did down at Soapstone, we installed a valve down there to try to help a guy out on Soapstone where it comes into, where at Soapstone and Moss Mill, where he was having issues, got a 2-story house into the line, so we tried to revert water flow a little bit, something to help them. It helped a little, but not enough. Some of the other projects, we did the sewer install on the DOT right away, got that taken care of, and got an attaboy from DOT. They liked the way we got it done and finished it, so that was a good thing. Guys worked hard on that. Next month, we're beginning our fire hydrant maintenance and repainting. We're repainting all the fire hydrants and getting them maintained and painted, and so it looks new, looks nice. Update on the new public workshop, rolling right along. They started framing it this morning, about 50% framed already. They plan on being done with the framing Wednesday, and then the electricians can start on the inside. They've already done the shop. It's already been wired, they just have to do the building. Garage doors will be here Wednesday, so that's moving right along. No major hiccups over there, so that's a good thing. Well, took the mountain system off. Go down here, some of the other jobs, the paving project, we hope to let that, EMI got back with the cost estimates for doing our paving list this year through the LMIG program. We plan on doing Davis, Batson, and Homer. 3 roads are right next to each other, get a better price if you can get your roads tight together where they don't have to move the equipment around. So those people over there are just thrilled to death. They're gonna get it paved now. They've been waiting a long time. It's in bad shape too. And Highland Point, of course, and that's on my list for the spring retreat. Some different ideas and some different techniques that might help to get that done in a reasonable time frame and a reasonable cost. That's a lot of that was when it was done. It wasn't done to city standards when they originally did it, and you can see the road is really bad concave in a lot of areas where they didn't get good compaction on top of the sewer lines and the roads and things like that. And that really needs to be something that I'll go into more at the retreat on
So
that.
how long is that road? Are they a mile and a half?
It's about a mile and a half. If you add them all together, the Highland Point Drive is actually a circle, so, but it's pretty good length. Then you have the 2 roads going off of that, and speeding, and I addressed the guy over there myself one time for speeding about a month ago, and addressed him pretty good. So he's one of them little cars that's shooting down Trojan Lane over there, and so they are out of hand. Some of the other things, as far as equipment, it's a normal thing. Highland Point. We had an issue with Highland Point. Small or large lift station had a communication hiccup, and they didn't understand why. Got with the SCADA guy, he didn't understand why, but luckily it was on a day that the power. Those pumps all work on 3-phase power, and what it did is it dropped one of the phases. They can't run the pumps without 3-phase. So the lights worked, everything worked except the pumps. But luckily the generator kicked on to run it. But the communications didn't communicate the failure to us through the SCADA. So luckily the power went out Tuesday, and our lift station checks was Wednesday, and when you get over there, the generator was running, but it didn't have a whole lot of fuel left in it. So it didn't run all day, all night, next day. So there was a glitch somewhere. I talked to the SCADA guy, he's trying to figure out what happened with communication. But that was resolved, no spillage, no nothing. Other than that, Whispering Woods Lift Station, of course, is the total thorn, as it has been. They've been down there again this week. Some issues with that. Going. And then we got a backhoe that went down, waiting on them to come repair the backhoe. So that's one more, the only thing that's really broke right now. Got all the tractors in. They've done some training. They did their equipment training. Got a couple guys that have been checked off on different types of equipment. Had the good training. Now that we got a nice area to be able to train at, it's beautiful. They can go over there and do what you want. The tractor training, took the new tractor out. They're getting used to it. It's going to take them a while. It's different. So they're pretty excited about it though. But they're learning to do that. Started cutting grass again, of course. And then we had a confined space class that was given. What confined space is anytime you go into an area that can only be controlled one way in, one way to egress out, and especially things that are in the ground. We have a lot of water vaults that we check every Monday. We do our vault checks for PRVs. These are down in the vault below ground. You have to go down there. There's things you have to put in place to make sure that you're safe to do that. And this class teaches them everything they need to know to be able to do that safely. And they all passed that class this week. Got all that done. So that's just about it. The normal stuff, according to what every month I turn a report into the mayor and council on what we do, all the work orders and the little things. So I don't want to go over that, but if you look back and start seeing that we're really trending to be
top of the list this year as far as utility locates and work orders. We're
Yeah.
really screaming on them, but basically this is me giving you the opportunity to ask me a question. Well, do you have any questions?
I have a question,
Sure.
or two questions.
Sure.
What date do you plan to move into the Public Works building, and will there be any celebrations?
I plan on moving in Friday, as soon as the garage doors are
And
You know,
these are the celebration.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my desk will be a milk crate, but I'm gonna plan on being in Friday. No, we look to be in toward mid to end summer.
Okay.
And then once we move our stuff in there and sort of settle for a minute, then we plan on having an open house, inviting the public and dignitaries and people to come out and go through it and look and admire like we are. So that's on there. It is.
So glad. I'm getting for you. Scott, I know the answer to this question, but I've had a couple of citizens say to me, I see your guys with one guy in the hole and five guys standing with shovels,
Right.
Nodding
Right.
heads. Can
Sure.
you please explain to the public why?
Well, what the
people
public,
watching in the hole?
what they think is they see one guy in the hole working, they see five guys standing around, and they think you got one guy that works and five guys on permanent lunch, and that's not it. I mean, I joke about the government all the time. Get me on the federal government, we'll just go for all day.
Right.
But what it is, a lot of that has to do with, number one, if you're in a hole, you have to have people watching you. You have to make sure you're safe. The banks in them holes can give in. Anything over 4 foot, you have to use shoring boxes, or you got to bench it back so you don't have a cave in and kill somebody. Well, you're watching. You're always watching to make sure you can tell if the ground cracked a little bit. If he's in there and he needs something, he don't want to have to jump out of the hole and go get it and come back, get back in the hole. You have people to go get things. You're going to get pipe. You're going to go get wrench. You're going to get pump. You're working the pump. You're doing this. People are watching out for the security of the site. There's cars coming by. You never know. These people can drive right off in a hole. Somebody's in a hole. So that's what it normally is. And it's normally not 5. It's 3 to 4. If I'm out there 5, but normally that's what that is. But that's why they do that. There's always normally it's 1 or 2 guys in the hole and a couple guys on the bank doing the up top stuff and then the hole stuff. That's why it is. It's just not one guy working, everybody else going, nice job. That's not it.
I love that description. That was great. You guys are amazing.
It's also a matter of sometimes that hole's just big enough for one guy to fit in.
That's
Right.
true. That's true.
Yep, that's true too. Yeah. Well, you guys work so hard. We know how hard you guys work and we appreciate it. And it's not but just maybe a handful of people that say that every now and again when they're feeling mad about something.
What's that now? I seen an invention the other day where they made a kickstand for a shovel. I thought that was a kickstand on a shovel. So you can put the kickstand on and leave the shovel. Right?
That's great, yeah.
But that's the perception, and I understand that. I get it. It's like when you go out and you're paving roads, and you'll see people out there, and you are, how so many people standing around? Only 2 guys are running the paving machine. A lot of the stuff that has to get done that you can't do. So
you don't see when you're just driving by.
yeah, one guy's in the hole.
I've stood there and with them and for a
That's
whole
different.
shift and watched it. Yeah.
That's different.
That's
There's
funny.
a lot of things to make that job come together, and some of it's in the hole, and some of it's outside the hole. So, that's what it is.
Well, I particularly appreciate the cross-training on equipment.
Yeah.
So thank you for
Yeah.
continuing to
Oh
do
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and we plan on doing more of it too, because they have to pass that first before they're allowed to use it. So,
Great.
thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott.
Any more questions?
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, there being no old business, we'll move on to new business. Tonight we have consideration approval of the first reading of the Otter zoning variance ordinance number 2024-03140Z. Ms. Woodmaster, can you lead us through this, please?
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
All right, in your packet on page 1, you'll see an application for a variance from Danny Otter. He is the applicant for Winslow Verdery, Wink Verdery, whom we all know. This is for, if you're familiar with Professional Park Drive, off of 441, it's that corner building. The first right that you make, and it's that first house, or the first building on the right. he is recommending, or requesting of council a variance or special use permit to allow for the upstairs part of that office space to become a residential dwelling. They want to convert it into a one-bedroom apartment. I don't know. Sorry, let me flip over to it. We have the application and then the warranty deed, and then I didn't know which side it was on, but on page 9 is the layout of their proposal.
That's a nice size. When you think one bedroom, one bathroom, or you think like, you know, in your mind you think studio, but then, oh, yes, it's a decent.
1,200 square feet.
Say what now?
I think it's 1,200
Yeah.
square feet.
Mr. Otter is also here tonight. He would like to ask him any questions.
I need a magnifying. I refuse to get glasses.
We're gonna get the magnifying, like the whole page is a magnifying glass or the
Yeah.
whole sheet.
I wonder if that would work. I don't know. That ain't working. Oh, I can see so good. Thanks. Team Baldwin. I can't see any of you out there. Wow, that's great. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So there are a couple of options for the council to consider. We did include our staff recommendations on page 11 for your review. It is the recommendation of city staff to deny the request because it's not allowed in the zoning ordinance as it stands. That you do not have to follow that. You have the option to approve this. As it's designed, you can approve it with conditions. If there's any other stipulations you would like to add or modify to include in the special use permit application, or you can deny it. Do you have any questions for me about the permit? Would you like for Mr. Otter to come up and talk to you about his project?
Yeah, do you mind? Would you like to come talk to us?
I would. Well, we built that building years ago, and when I developed the park, we did have the option of going either into the city of Cornelia or into Baldwin, and we chose Baldwin, and we were actually encouraged by the city officials at that time to come into Baldwin, and they were quite gracious. The timing, things have changed over the decades. When that office building was built, it was very unusual to hear of having a residential and a office building located in the same area. But as decades have come on, there have been numerous cases, even in big cities and all that prove there's quite a bit of benefit. There's a benefit of having your, one benefit for us would be security. We've had some theft and some vandalism in there that we had a vehicle stolen, and we do have a dumpster that is much more convenient to many drivers by than maybe going to the dump, and they tend to use that for us. But it's just a very common and seems a very practical thing to allow for say an owner. Wink is, well, I'm old and he's older than I am, and he is desirous of selling the building at some point, and it would make it a lot more marketable, and I think it would be interesting to see if there might be someone that would like to live there and then own the rest of it. It's not going to be, if we had city sewer without even changing the zoning, we could put in a boarding house, which I don't think would be as cool for the neighborhood as what we're requesting to do. And like I said, we could do that with the current zoning.
So it's not like we're requesting to do something that I think is going to be any detrimental at all, and I think it would be an advantage to the community. We haven't had any pushback from anyone, so we've engaged as per the not that it's it was my choice, but we hired engineers to engineer to make sure we could get the sewer in. We hired an architect to do the layout. We, of course, paid the $650 privilege for coming up here, so we would, certainly appreciate the consideration for a variance. And I don't know what the downside to it would be. I'm not really sure what.
And that's been my whenever a variance comes, staff recommendation is gonna be, to deny it because it doesn't exist, the rule is not there. So whenever it comes up, when variances come up, I like to, as an individual decision maker, what's the cost versus benefit? I haven't really come up with a cost yet. I do see the benefit. I remember when Wink's truck was stolen last year, which was crazy. You guys are kind of like a little cut, so I can see where it would be good having someone a presence there, whether it's a security officer or not, a presence there. I can see the benefit of that, and I can also see the economic benefit. Yes, we have neighborhood commercial, which I'm a humongous fan of the retail or office space on the bottom and up top, living space. I feel like it's a very good, efficient land use, highest and best use of land. I think I've actually driven by and looked at the building that you guys are talking about modifying, and I can't see where that would be odd or off in any way.
It's actually a modified house plan when I built it.
It looks like a house already.
When I built it, I was building custom homes, and I wanted to do an office that was more, so folks could see how you could build a cool house on the side of the hill.
It's crazy, yes, and you've done a lot of that.
I've done a lot of that. This is not the first one.
So
is it actively for sale, the property?
Not at the moment. There's a sign up that's been up there for a long time.
That's your real estate office sign though, right?
No, it says for sale.
No, there's a for sale sign that I have not.
How did I not notice?
So, if somebody made you an offer tomorrow.
If somebody made an offer this evening, we would certainly consider it, of course.
Okay.
But
So you're not committed to owning the property necessarily. You're asking us for a special use permit, but you would like to sell the property.
yes, yeah. But part of the reason for the variance is to add value to the property. That upstairs, the upstairs has not been rented for office in years and years. Just the market for office space, especially with COVID, has changed significantly. You just, people are working from home. When I was in there, we had a little desktop publishing company, and we had little, there were businesses that needed an office to be valid, and it's just not the case anymore. So it's really the value of that upstairs as an office is just not there. It's a very expensive place that we store Christmas decorations.
I understand that, but I've been on the council long enough. We've had other council members who said, why bother to have ordinances if you're going to just, offer special use permits down the road? This does set a precedent for us. If we allow this, then other people in a similar situation can ask for this, and then you can't say no because we've already allowed this. So we are setting precedent if we do this.
But it is kind of a trend in the country now. I was reading an article the other day that a lot of the housing shortage, especially in the metro areas, and I know we're not metro area, but that's converting office spaces to residential and having the mix is considered to be an excellent use of the
Right.
the real estate and
You
properties.
said it yourself, that if you were to make multiple units, that would be allowed, right?
But we don't have sewer.
So they would, what would they have to do to say have 3 units?
What do you,
Pardon?
what do you mean?
Wait.
Supervised, would they, you're on septic or sewer?
Septic.
They have septic.
Yeah, we don't, and there's no, Baldwin does not have a sewer line available. It would, if we had,
That'd be awful there.
Yeah, so most of the units is not.
Yeah, that would be awful, yeah, and that would
So
be.
you're physically not be an option, that multiple units.
no, a one-bedroom, I mean, we had to, in order to get this far, I had to have soil work done, engineering, had an engineer design, the septic system
You're adding to the drain field.
to add to the drain field and have a complete backup. I mean, we have thousands of dollars invested just to get to this point here. I didn't want to bring it to you guys until, I couldn't bring it to you guys until I checked all the boxes. And in order to do it correctly, I had to hire the engineers and the architects and get the soil work done. And
I mean, every time we do a special use ordinance, no matter what it is, and a variance, it's, I can't say that it's setting a precedent because we already approve variances and special use permits all the time. And again, that's why I say, for me, in my own, can only speak for myself, is when these come up, it's what's the cost versus benefit. Like for one example, was the recent apartments that they had, come to us previously, but for 44 units, and the cost versus benefit was not there. It was gonna cost us way too much in services that wouldn't offset any, it just was skewed too far. But the 10 units was just enough to provide a little more housing without being too much of a cost to the city. So, again,
I'm not sure what the additional cost to the city would be.
that's what I was saying, is that I couldn't find any. But the benefit that I found was that you've got eyes there all the time. It does offset some of your holding costs of that property. It provides a little bit of.
Well, increase the value, so you can charge more taxes.
This is true.
So, I mean, I couldn't see, a downside for the city, but I'm standing here, not sitting there, so.
Oh, yeah.
But I do humbly request that you would, give consideration to our request and approve our variance.
Mr. Woodmaster, you shared, the fire department safety concerns with
Well,
Chief Roy listed out some things that were expected to be in the unit if it were approved.
I'm sorry, have I shared that?
Yeah, have you shared that with
no,
Mr. Otter?
we know that we have to comply with the fire regulations when you do a conversion. I've done.
You had a conversation with Chief Roy.
Not
okay.
about this particular, but I discussed it with the architect, and I mean, obviously we would expect to comply with all all fire regulations and safety regulations.
No,
Martin, any comment?
Ms. Carey?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking. I'm not, as you recall from previous situations like this, I'm not a huge fan of the neighborhood commercial type situation. But personally, having seen the property, I'm not really too worried about it as long as we make sure
highway business.
It's highway business, it's not, this one's not neighborhood commercial. Oh, you were just saying that you don't like those concepts, oh, well.
Yeah, but, you know, from the outside, you won't be able to tell as far as I can see. And as long as it's not undue stress on our fire department, police department, I don't have much of a problem.
Okay, speaking of emergencies, yeah. Okay, so this requires 2 readings. Tonight is the first reading. Can I have a motion to approve the first reading of the Otter zoning variance ordinance number 2024-03140Z as presented? So
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion from Councilman Venter. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Satterfield. All those in favor?
Aye.
I think, can I see a show of hands, please? Oh, it's unanimous, okay. Ms. Davis, I wasn't sure if you were yea or nay. So there are no nays. This passes unanimously for the first reading.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, this gives us more time to consider, think about it, and then second reading at our.
The public hearing is.
At the work session?
At the work session.
Next,
Okay.
on the ninth.
Public hearing is the work session.
Okay, so I come back on the next,
Second.
Is it the 9th?
April 9th.
April 9th.
okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Wonder what's happening. Okay, the next item of new business, consideration approval of the Habersham County Animal Control Contract. Mr. Master, it is you again.
All right. Bear with me. There's a lot to unpack here.
It is. She knows the inside and out, though, for sure.
I'm well versed. All right, so we have for a few years now been in discussions with the county about providing animal control services. This conversation predates me being here, but it was always a topic that came up, and Baldwin would request to understand why it's being budgeted the way that it is and how the fees are being assessed to the cities. And so I carried that torch on. As well, 3 of you know, there was a few years where we have canceled the service. So on page 16 of your packet, I did create the history of animal control for those of you who are new, who may not know all that has transpired over the last 8 years. But prior to fiscal year 2016, we were providing, the city of Cornelia was providing the city of Baldwin with animal control services. And it was during the start of the fiscal year 17, that they decided that they no longer wanted to provide the service. And that is because they were eliminating their animal control department. For many reasons, state codes had changed, and there was a lot more requirements, and it became burdensome to carry that on as a city. And so the county had agreed to come in and take over for the city of Cornelia, and we had the option to enter into an agreement with them as well. Animal control is not a county-wide service. This is a service provided to the unincorporated residents of Habersham County, not to the incorporated residents. In order for the county to actually provide the service inside the city limits of any city in Habersham, they're required to enter into an IGA, an intergovernmental agreement between the city and the county for them to enter our jurisdiction and conduct business. So in FY17, we agreed for them to engage, for the 2 of us to engage in an IGA for the remainder of that fiscal year. Then in fiscal year 18, they presented us with a new agreement, and that new agreement is where, in fiscal year 18 is where we started to see a recalculation of fees, but prior to this, we would have had no expectations or frame of reference for how or why they charged for the service the way that they did, because the agreed upon amount was a number they gave us and said, this is what we'll do it for you guys to come on over. And they were doing us a favor by taking us on. And so in FY18, they presented an agreement to the city to pay 4.16% of the animal control budget, with an auto renewal clause that it would renew annually, and there was a 3% cap for the year-over-year increases. So you've heard probably or read in the media at some point that the county was bound by this 3% cap, that they could only increase their rates by 3% regardless of what the cost of the service was. And so that 3% cap shows up in our agreement for the first time in fiscal year 18. We did not agree to the 4.16% of the animal control budget. I'm not sure what was discussed at that time, but we paid the same amount that we did the year prior. And those two things are not equal. So I don't know the answer to that. But we paid $13,975. And then in FY19, during fiscal year 18, we actually canceled our animal control service agreement with the county, along with fire service and a couple of other things that got canceled. So in FY19 and FY20, we did not have animal control services with the county. Then in FY21, we asked them to come back. We saw a great need for the service, and we went to them. They came to us with an agreement to, we negotiated a rate of 7.5% of the animal control budget, less the county's revenue that they received from the department. This time the agreement did not come with a 3% cap, was not in there, but it did renew annually. The 7.5% cap, again, it was just a percentage. It was not tied to any quantifiable or qualifiable number. It was just a number.
Yeah.
So then in FY22, we carried that agreement over, and they went up only 3%, even though it was not in the agreement. They only went up 3%. And I believe that is because the other cities that already had these agreements in place, that was the same method that they were using for them. So the increase that they gave us, it just followed suit with everyone else in the city, or in the county. And then we canceled that agreement in FY22 in November, and we were asking them to negotiate or to come to understand how they were arriving at the rate and how we could confidently talk to our taxpayers about how much money from their county tax is being utilized in exercising the budget for animal control. And so we canceled that agreement in November, and we started meeting with them. We had a meeting with them in March of 2023, and Alice, you can speak to that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
We had an understanding of what was about to change. We had finally arrived at a solution. Like we could answer the people and explain how animal control was accounted for, why the cities were assessed the fees that they were, and it was defensible. So during that time, in those meetings, in that meeting in March, we agreed to re-engage the county with animal control services from March to June of that year, with the intention of negotiating a new agreement for the next year, because we had come to a solution.
An understanding. Mm-hmm.
And so we had an agreement. So even though we canceled the previous agreement, we re-entered an agreement for 4 months, for the remaining 4 months of the calendar, or the fiscal year, excuse me. And that was set to expire in, I'm sorry, your spreadsheet says June of 2022, but that's 2023. My apologies. A lot of dates.
Yeah. Oh, it's been a lot of back and forth.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, that's the chaos.
So, brings us to today. We were given an agreement in December of 2023 for the fiscal year 2024. That agreement, as I'm sure you've read, was incorrect for Baldwin because it was based on Baldwin's percentage of population, and that 7.5% number appeared back.
Incorrect.
Not our number.
Right.
And so in one of our first meetings with the county, we explained to them that this number was wrong, and they went back, did their calculations, and uncovered that it was wrong. So the first agreement that they presented to us was $28,000, and after they recalculated it based on the population that Baldwin actually maintains in the county, it reduced it down to $18,000. So there was a lot of back and forth over the last couple of months trying to understand their numbers were different than the numbers that we had arrived at on our side based on all of the information that we had in the past. Because the end goal has always been to defend the tax dollar, follow the dollar. How much of your property taxes for the county go to animal control? Because it's not a countywide service. So they don't have to provide it to anyone in the county. But they do, because taxes pay for part of it. And so they have to provide some element of that service. And so through this negotiation, Stephanie and I met with the county manager, and they explained that if we decided not to proceed with an animal control agreement, we do have the ability to still utilize the animal control facility in Clarksville, because tax dollars do contribute to the operations and maintenance of that facility. So you'll see on page 17, this is their breakdown of how they arrived at their numbers. This is different than what we had originally discussed with them last year. And we thought we were arriving at a defined total. This is how much of the property tax goes to animal control. And that isn't the number they used. They made the decision to use the gross digest percentage. Really quick, the gross digest versus the net digest, the only difference in those two is exemptions. So the gross digest is the maximum amount of land value or land valuation that is potentially taxable. But the net digest is what is actually taxable based on exemptions. So if you have a homestead exemption, you have $2,000 valuation discount, right? So that $2,000 after the gross digest is the net that you pay.
In other words, it's the actual dollars that come to the coffer.
Correct.
Right.
That's correct. Yes. Sorry, I'm trying to be as concise as I can.
You're doing great.
There's a lot.
Yes.
So they chose to use the gross digest percentage. Now, all of the cities have agreed for many years now at this point that it was a fair and equitable way for the cities to be charged a fee based on their population. So the calculation is your percentage of the population less your contribution to the digest. Remember, we're trying to the whole time we've been trying to identify where does the tax dollars go? Where are they in the lineup? So you have your population percentage, the value, so that percentage, you take that percentage point, and the animal control budget. And that is how much we need to pay as a city. For that much of their budget, we should pay that. And then you subtract out the contributions that we've already made as taxpayers to their coffers.
So it's not double taxation like I've been screaming.
Yes. But the gross digest percentage is just that. It's another percentage calculation. It's not following the actual dollars that entered the county coffer for the purpose of animal control. So it's just another percentage. Again, it was not what we had originally discussed last year. So you'll see on page 17 that they have arrived, that very first, the top section is the population, 6.46% of the county's population, which means we would owe $61,000. And then they have that old invoice amount, the maximum that they're allowed to charge, but for the sake of tonight's conversation, this is not relevant. Then that green box is the percentage of you'll see in that middle column, it's the percentage that is carried down from the top. That is our percentage. We owe $61,000, and then it says amount collected from countywide tax digest of $43,374. Again, this number is based on the gross digest percentage, not the net. So based on that, we owe $18,455. So if you flip over to page 18, you'll see the intergovernmental agreement that we must engage in order for us to have animal control. The county cannot be in our city limits without an official agreement stating that they can be here and operate their service in our jurisdiction. So on page 19, you'll see everything else is the same. This IGA explains why we're engaging in the agreement, because it is cost effective for us to engage in agreement with the county. For us to provide this service on our own is a great expense when they already provide the service. So We do agree in this agreement to adopt their animal control ordinance. We already have, that is currently in place. Whether or not we're engaged in a service, we actually utilize that agreement, that code. And then the enforcement, this is just stating that Habersham County is responsible for the enforcement of the within ordinance by the Habersham County Animal Control Center. They're authorized to issue citations in the corporate limits of the city. They're tried in Magistrate Court of Habersham County. The court is delegated and authority and jurisdiction to hear and decide such violations and shall be able to impose such fines or penalties to the maximum allowed. This is giving them the authority to run their court. The citation comes from Baldwin and it's being tried in Habersham. We don't touch the money. It's not tried in our court. It's their case. And then the compensation of the agreement says that we will pay $18,455.58, reflecting the net value of the actual cost, which is the population, the agreed amount, population value, less the tax digest contribution from the 2023 tax digest, which is not the same number. This should say the gross digest percentage, because the tax digest contribution would be the actual net digest contribution, and then breaking down how much of that is the animal control budget, and then Baldwin's portion of that, which we can arrive at that number. Did we hand those out in their packets?
The long sheets,
Yeah.
yes.
So in the back of your packet, you have the long sheet that actually breaks down all of that. I encourage you to look through that. I am not going to belabor the point, but this is how we arrived at those numbers. I'm happy to discuss them with anybody who would like to look at them. But this should say the gross digest percentage, not the total digest or less tax digest contribution, because that is not the same thing. The sum is recalculated annually as of June 30th, and they use the tax digest for that year, and due payable by September 30th of every year. The term of this agreement shall begin when we enter it. I will say that because this agreement is for fiscal year 2024, this will be retroactive to July 1. The county has been providing that service to the city since July 1, even though there hasn't been an updated agreement with a new rate.
And we appreciate that from the county.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've not seen a lapse in service, even though we are looking at this agreement. It will auto-renew. If this agreement is signed, it will auto-renew.
Can we take the auto renewal out because we have not finished discussions with them at all?
Okay.
Yeah.
I can propose
We
it.
have not finished discussions with them. In fact, it really turned in from a molehill into a mountain when it didn't need to be, because we, with angels in our heart, approached the county and asked to have a discussion with someone from all of the cities, because this continues. You can see from this history that you just gave us how much of a cluster this is, and that it just continues to come back and be a problem. And last year, when we canceled that agreement, we did not have a service, and the animals kept coming, and I spent $2,000 of my own money taking care of animals, because they gotta go somewhere. And so that's also how we ended up with our canine officer. Somehow, he dropped a Malinois
Sure.
right here at the police department, and
You figured it out.
and it wasn't Godwink, yeah, and so we now have Nico, so, you know, but that said, I understand that this is a very important service, but to continue to have this kind of history and back and forth is just, and it's such a small thing. The problem is when you don't get together all at one time and do things the right way, is that it dictates how future service delivery negotiations is gonna go on. And that is a lot, folks. That's fire, that is water, that EMS.
Every
yeah.
service.
It's, yes, every service, the service delivery, it affects how that's negotiated. So when you go in good faith and you say, hey, let's get all the cities together, let's bounce some ideas off of each other, let's see if we can't come up with some sort of long-term or permanent solution. And unfortunately, that did not happen. Unfortunately, the conversation was the county staff going to each individual city instead and saying, hey, what happened to our conversation? What happened to the whole spirit of working together? That did not happen. And I'm really irritated about that. But you know what? This number is much less than what they could actually be calculating if they used correct numbers.
Well, let me go. I'll tie it
Sorry,
all.
I'm
It's
just
okay. It's okay. So the county has kindly asked that we make a decision by April 30th, and I mean it has at that point it will have been 5 months in negotiating this agreement. The options that we have before us is to accept the agreement as is, to propose any modifications that you as the council would like to see modified in that agreement, and see if they are interested in entertaining that. If not, we do have the option to cancel this agreement, and the citizens of Baldwin are still allowed to use the animal control facility in Clarksville. They just will not, and they cannot come in for a service call. So if there's, a dog running down the street and you call animal control, they will not come and get that dog. If that dog jumps in somebody's truck and it's taken up there, then yes, that's fine. Because we do have access to that service. And all of the services that the Animal Control Center provides, we have access to. In doing that, if we were to not continue with this agreement this year, the county has asked for payment for the services, for the months the services that has already been rendered, in accordance with the agreement that we signed last year, which is $1,400 a month, which is $16,800 for, my apologies, it's less than that, for the 7 months or 8 months of service. Yeah, it would be $16,800 for an entire year at that rate. I don't have that number.
How does it support Banks County citizens? Because I know Banks County does not have any type of animal control.
Yes.
Okay. So as it currently stands, Banks County residents are able to use Habersham County animal control.
Okay.
Under every agreement that we've ever had, that has been a courtesy that has been extended to Banks County. However, I would like to petition the council to reach out to Banks County commissioners to enter a formal agreement with Banks County so that Habersham County can enter Banks County's jurisdiction inside the Baldwin city limits with an IGA.
Because the tickets that are issued can't come to Habersham County court. They're not legal without the IGA. So here's the other thing also, and I'm saying this as a Banks County resident who has spent my own money on animals that came from Habersham County that we understand, is that through all of this, our mission with this entire thing was for it to be right. Period. Even if it costs more. If it costs that amount, then it costs that amount.
That's okay.
If that costs that amount, it costs that amount. It's fine. It's what's right. Likewise, Habersham County should not be subsidizing Banks County residents inside the city of Baldwin. It's very nice, and I really do appreciate it. I've had to use it a time or two in the years that we have had it, but it's just not right. So if I'm challenging or charging the county for doing the right thing, then I gotta clean up my backyard too. So I really think, and maybe this is something that we can discuss at retreat, we need to talk to our Banks County residents inside the city about having a special tax district so that they can pay their fair share, as they should.
So if we enter into a service agreement or an IGA with Banks County and bring everyone to the table, Alto is in the exact same position we are, that they are split. They have citizens in Banks County and citizens in Habersham County. By entering into an agreement with Banks County commissioners and the county, we can create a special tax district for the Banks County residents so that their money for animal control, it's the animal control millage rate equivalent.
Yeah.
I've heard it a lot. But you would take that value and supply it directly to Habersham County to cover the cost of the services rendered to Banks County residents. I would love to meet with them.
I would love to meet with them too. So I guess we got this before us.
For article number 3, can we also change the less tax digest contribution to the gross digest contribution? Can we do that? Where in the article, yeah, because it's
Yeah,
because
that's right.
we're gonna look at this as a historical document to see how we arrived at this accurate.
Yeah. You okay?
Yes, I just feel really bad that I'm coughing.
I hate when I do that. It's always at the worst moment.
And although this says, this says the corporate city limits, so that is Banks County.
It is.
Included.
It is, we just need to, and then that's another, just one more reason why we should all been in the same room at the same time, because these kinds of things, so yes, thank you, but I think further discussion needs to be, so, right. But yes, it does say the corporate limits.
I'm happy to propose those changes to Kim.
So if they propose the $1,400 a month, can't we just go with the $1,400 a month for the agreement? Rather than the 1885, what was it?
18,455.
Oh, right, that's right, so it's $1,400 a month, I thought you were talking about the.
Well, if we were to choose not to engage in this IGA based on the compensation article that they've created, and canceling that agreement, they would ask us to pay $1,400 for the services already rendered. So I think what you're asking is, could we ask them to just pay $1,400 for the entire year?
A month.
Per month.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, per month for the entire year.
Yeah. I mean, if they'll
I
take
could-
that, would they take it for the entire year?
I can ask them. I'm happy to do that.
They've said no to other proposals that we've sent them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's their number. That's what they're saying it should cost every month. I mean, so I'm willing to take their number.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. I will ask them.
16,800 is better than 18,455. Easy, back. A little less that we gotta scratch out and stuff.
We have a budget for animal control.
Are we in agreement that we want to keep animal control? Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I don't wanna, yeah, yes, you want animal control. We need more of that, yeah.
Would you also like for me to reach out to Banks County to find out if they're interested in me? I will do it.
Thank you.
Should we be working with Alta to their?
I'd recommend it.
Similar situation.
Yeah, and we can just put everyone that's impacted into the thing. Yeah.
But
I will.
the third municipality, two counties is Tallulah and they're in Raven, so they wouldn't be in that IGA.
Now, Raven County does really well with their
No, it's not.
service.
Right. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
They do not participate.
Yeah, they don't.
Okay.
I think they have animal control through Raven County, right?
They do, yeah, I spoke with their
They
mayor.
have is it 99 residents? in
Something
Habersham?
like that, it's really, yeah, and they've got just a few, yeah.
Emily, off the top of your head, do you remember the call numbers that, we couldn't arrive at call numbers.
They provided us intake numbers,
Right.
so they couldn't give us how many calls came from our jurisdiction, but they could account for how many animals arrived there from. And for Baldwin, we had 92 animals that arrived.
Last year.
From September 2022 to September of 2023, there was 92. So an annual average, I suppose.
Were we on the high or the low side of this?
Well, we have a bigger population, but we were the highest of the smaller cities. Cornelia had 333.
I can guarantee you that's because Banks County does not have animal control and people, will bring their animals up here and drop them off.
For our Baldwin number?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Is that
so,
limited to what they can pick up?
It was just how many they received in. So whether
Is it just cats and dogs?
Oh, is
They
they,
have a big problem.
They just
with
said
chickens
animals.
running around all over the place, even in town.
I don't think they pick chickens up.
no, they don't.
Yeah, we have a resident who we have a rooster issue in Mallard Pond. Can't find them to get them ourselves, but we reached out to the Department of Agriculture. They've reached out to the Department of Agriculture, and Department of Ag told them that it was a county animal control issue. We reached out to animal control. Excuse me. He reached out to animal control, and animal control told him we can't catch roosters.
So they don't pick up.
They can't catch it. Yeah, well, you know,
Well,
it's
there's
like
several
trying to.
spots in Baldwin, even in town, where we have problems with chickens running around everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't think that chickens are included in that number.
You know?
Opportunity to field deal to make some money.
I know. I know. We need to call Morgan, my daughter. I don't know that.
Get Anastasia.
Anastasia.
She'll wrangle her
Right,
chickens.
How
right.
do we address something like that if animal control won't touch it? Because it's a problem. I was showing our property the other day and a chicken is walking across the front porch.
In Baldwin.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
in Baldwin, on Airport Road. And the people
A
are
business.
like, a chicken.
It came with
And we look across the street, they're running around all over the place, along with all sorts of other animals.
Farm fresh.
In town.
So just with master, the item on the agenda is consideration approval, but we are going back to ask the county for 3 amendments, 2 amendments.
With your permission.
So we don't need to vote on this right now until we hear back from
No, not unless you want to authorize me to go and negotiate that.
I'll let you go.
But I'm only gonna go and say this.
So should we table this until we receive further information?
Yeah, I'll reach out to the county tomorrow and talk with them. Hopefully we'll have some correspondence and conversation before our work session. But I will recommend that we make a decision at the first meeting in April. I don't want to go until April 30th.
No, right.
I want to give them an answer.
Yeah.
So
So then, I need a
We'll
motion
be
to
prepared.
amend the agenda. Oh, no, we just table.
Yeah, just table it.
Okay.
That's fine.
Are you comfortable with tabling, or do you want to vote? No.
Question, I said it, but it wasn't addressed, so how do we address the chickens and the poultry and stuff, is that a code compliant or important?
It is.
How are we gonna address that, because it needs to be fixed?
We can, if we know who the chickens belong to, we can absolutely go out there and talk to them with our code compliance officer. They can go out there and have that conversation about, there's rules. I mean, you are allowed to have chickens inside city limits, but there are regulations in order for them to be inside the city
They
limits.
can't be in large.
They have to be in a
right.
coop.
Yeah.
And there's some distance requirements that are required to be upheld, depending on what zoning district they're in. So we can, if we know who they belong to. If we don't know who they belong to, it is an animal control issue.
It is. They just don't have the resources, they say, to
Yeah.
do catching chickens is not easy.
No easy feat.
So,
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it.
That's not really an answer, so.
Um,
But we can go out there and see where the chickens are.
I know the chickens, yes.
Let me know. We'll go out there. We can go out there.
I'll second, Councilman Gates', concerns there, and it's animal control and vet control.
animal control.
Yeah, and which also.
And we can also talk to them and explain that you've experienced an issue out there and see if there's any recommendation that they can give. If they can come with our code compliance officer. I don't know. But we can definitely talk to them.
Because I've had at least 2
Yeah.
residents complain about the roosters
Yeah.
in Mallard Pond.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk to Maddie. Maddie's incredible.
Yeah.
She's second to none at the county.
That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
Okay, can I have a motion to table the Habersham County Animal Control contract pending further information from the schoolmaster? I have a motion from Councilwoman Venter. Do I have a second? I have a second from Councilwoman Davis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We're going to table this until we get additional information. Okay, great. Discussion of the, next item is discussion of the purchasing policy, Ms. Woodmaster.
Yes. So we have had some questions the last couple of weeks about our emergency purchase policy, which has caused one of our department heads to reach out and ask for clarification. And others have since asked the same question. They were just the ones to start it. But we just need, as staff, some clarification from the council on how you would like for us to enforce that policy. There has been many discussions about it, but in order for us to proceed and understand what it is that we're doing and that we are in compliance with the code that you set forth, I would just like to know from the council how you would like for us to proceed with the emergency purchasing policy.
So tonight, we need consensus on whether we want to maintain the purchasing policy as it is or amend it.
Mm-hmm. Or create some deviation from what is currently provided to allow for whatever you would like for it to read.
Okay.
Without modification.
Okay.
So, does everyone have this handout? I know all the council does, but does some of them? Okay.
But this is for us to discuss it.
There you go. Okay, you have in your hands a copy of the purchasing policy. Section 9 details the emergency purchasing policy section. When using this to purchase items, it weighs the entire 17 pages of the written purchasing policy. I'm interested in changing what to do if emergency arrives above 5,000. That is emergency. Because according to Section 4, purchasing levels, any item above $5,000 have to be approved by council. On February the 28th, a new business item was brought to council regarding a new motor. The motor that was deemed an emergency expense that would take 13 weeks or about 3 months to arrive, and is still working. The last time it was replaced was in 1987, or over 30 years ago. How can this even be considered in the same category as a busted water pipe on the side of the road? My only intention is to have this discussion with the goal of making Baldwin a better place for many generations for all of us. I implore you to all understand my perspective. So if you look at the handout, this is what I propose be added for the policy revision in section 9. So in highlighted in yellow, you need to cross those words out, and I'll present the following. Emergency level 1, most severe, as already written and established, waiving our complete purchasing policy, could be a fire hydrant or pipes. Emergency level 2, something that takes longer than 1 week to attain. Instead of voiding our current complete purchasing policy, to revise it, only multiple quotes are needed. Reference section 4.
All right. Huh? I'm confused.
Okay, so let me say this. The current purchasing policy has been in place for a while now and has served the city very well and cut back on a lot of bureaucracy, which you have to understand that the enterprise fund is not like any other municipal fund, okay? So when a pump goes out, or a pump is about to go out, yes, that's an emergency, because the people of not only Baldwin, but the whole, I think 75% of the county relies on the water system. With that being said, the policy has been in place, and, you know, the insinuation that we have to make Baldwin better is saying that there's a problem here. And there is no problem with that policy. That's absolutely transparent. And the staff didn't have to come to council on that one, but they did. So not too concerned about it. And as such, I don't even think that we need to be discussing the policy at this point because there's nothing wrong with it. You know, there is such a thing as trying to build a better mousetrap or trying to reinvent the wheel. And I think at this point that's where we're at. And I just don't see the purpose of going any further with it.
Well, so, thank you, I've got some, also, so you're saying that, I'm confused. What you're saying is that, like, something that takes longer than a week shouldn't be an emergency? That takes longer than a week to get here?
Yes, it's still emergency, but it could fall into level 2.
Well, so here's the thing though, is that when something, let's say this pair of sunglasses, takes 13 weeks, that's the lead time. We still have to let them know right away, we can't wait 13 weeks and be like, hey, yeah, y'all go ahead and send that to us. We actually have to let them know right away, which is why it's an emergency. So we can start the 13 weeks, right?
Right, this would just further delay.
Yes, it would, that would be very dangerous, especially when you're talking about water and wastewater. That motor for the digester is, we're limping it along, waiting for this motor to come. If the aerator, the motor that gives all the bugs their delicious oxygen so that it can break down our waste, if it's not doing that, the waste is backing up. We don't want waste to back up. So that said, I, myself, and Mayor Elam at the time, Larry Llewellyn, Dr. Almano, and Theron Ayers, at the direction of Ms. Woodmaster, and a few of us all got together and worked on our purchasing policy because it was chaos.
We didn't actually have one.
We didn't have one, yeah. It was chaos, and because we want to be good stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, and to make sure that credit cards aren't getting swiped for a little gas or a little sandwich over here, and that it is extremely well monitored and a very well oiled machine, this policy. We also worked with our attorney on this policy. So by taking out the emergency clause, what's going to happen is that we are going to hinder the operations that are very well oiled. And I know your concern, which is very noble, absolutely noble, and admirable, to look out for the taxpayers' dollars, because we're all taxpayers, right? So we want, precisely, we're all citizens. And so to look out for that, it's a good idea that to not hinder the services in bureaucracy and waiting for us to come or to call a special call meeting or any of that, and then trying to get 3 quotes. 3 quotes are fantastic. We already require 3 quotes for anything over $2,500.
Unless 3 quotes cannot be provided.
Which has already happened while you've been in the seat.
And when they can't be provided, they still have to provide justification why they cannot be provided.
Exactly. So basically, all you were asking is that we remove the emergency, like we're tying their hands in emergency, which is, so let me tell you, was it Delta, Mr. Holliday? Was it Delta or Zeta that came through and blew out the main line? And Demers water and Baldwin water we had 6 inches of water in our water tank, which meant that if we had a structure fire, we couldn't have fought it. But that guy and that guy right there were out in the water, literally rigging this thing up to keep the water from, I mean, when I say out there in the trenches, I mean, not looking nice like they look right now, they were dirty and wet and cold. So,
emergency level 1 does not hinder the emergency purchase policy at all. But
what are you saying level 1? What are you defining as level 1?
Yeah.
What do you define as
As
severe?
already written, established, waived in our complete purchasing policy, it could be a fire hydrant, it could be a water line.
But who are we that are not experts to tell the experts what constitutes an emergency? That's not our job. And I'm pretty sure you learned that at your newly elected officials class. It is not our job to tell the experts what's an emergency. That is dangerous. Okay.
Other comments?
I'm not interested in changing policy. I don't know about anybody else, but.
Any comments from Mr. Keith or Ms. Davis?
I don't believe that many of us, three of us, are seasoned or tenured enough to make this decision to begin with.
Okay, so
That's my
tonight,
personal opinion.
all we're looking for is a consensus. Do you want to change the purchasing policy, or do you want to keep it as is? And keep it as is.
Right.
And,
I say change it.
all right, Ms. Woodmaster, this didn't necessarily need a vote, it was a consensus, so you can
Yeah.
talk to department heads
Let-
about a
let them know how to
strategy going forward. Okay. You know, there is a committee that needs to talk about these kinds of issues, so maybe this is something that we can let them know and retreat or not again, but they'll lead with passion.
Yes, don't look at that.
Oh, for sure. We appreciate you set the vibes. All right, does that take care of item 3, Ms. Woodmaster? There being no executive session, the next set of next set of items will be announcements. City offices will be closed March 29th in observance of Good Friday. Announcement B, homestead exemption affidavits for city property taxes are due April 1st. Please stop by City Hall with your driver's license or other government-issued ID to complete the affidavit. Item C, join us for the 25th Baldwin Cleanup Day, PT Clean, on Saturday, April 20th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Baldwin Farmers Market. Celebrate Earth Day by cleaning up Baldwin roads and planting a tree. Free t-shirt and lunch provided for pre-registered participants. Register with your t-shirt sizes at Baldwin events at cityofbaldwin.org by April 5th. And we've seen the t-shirt art. That's
Oh
always the
my
best
goodness,
time of
they're
year
so,
when you see the kids'
yeah.
t-shirt art.
I love all their artwork, yeah.
That
It's
was
just
fabulous.
Yes.
So we've got a clean theme
Yeah.
going on this year. And then, so, we do it. So, Ms. Woodmaster, this mentions that cleanup day is April 20th, but we actually have cleanup week,
Yes.
right? Prior to that, it's
The entire week.
the week leading up.
The week leading up, it's the week leading up to it, we pick up, they call City Hall, they put their name, their address on a list, and we'll go around starting Monday. We just ask them to have everything out no later than Thursday, we like to quit on Thursday,
Okay.
picking everything up, and then that Saturday is when we do the cleanup for the city, but we do it all week long. They just have to call City Hall, put their name on a pickup list, and we'll arrange to go pick anything
Okay,
up.
so if you have items that need to be picked up by our public works folks, you can call City Hall, put your name on the list. And last year, we started taking tires and paint.
And paint.
And that was big, we had a lot of those. And you asked that those be.
Kept it out front at the right of way, like you'd put your chipping out every month, but keep the two piles separate. If you've got some scrap wood or metal or something on one side, just put your paint, your tires by themselves, because we have to pick them up in a trailer that we line with the tarps, and there's no spillage or anything for the
Okay,
paint, the
so
tires.
tires and paint separately. Does the paint need to be dried, or can we take cans of?
As long as it's in a can that's.
With a lid.
With a lid, it's not gonna slosh out, we appreciate that, but,
But if you would like to dry it out.
If you'd like to dry
some
it out.
kitty
Right.
girl do.
it'd be better if it's dried out.
Dirt.
Or dirt too,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So clean up week. Anybody in the Baldwin city limits, if you have, so Scott, you said scrap metal, do you take sofas? Do you
We take everything,
You take
couches,
everything.
sofas, refrigerators, stoves, water heaters, trampoline.
I got some work for
We
them.
can't put C&D in the landfill anymore, so do we have a place to take everything? Okay.
Yeah, when we bring it back to where we put it in the dumpsters and everything, we actually sort the scrap metal. We always stock scrap metal because then we can surplus that for buying a chair or buying something that we
Yeah.
need at Public
I love
Works,
that.
so we just
Yeah.
recycle it, but everything, and the paint, if they don't dry it out, we end up having, because we can't get rid of it till we dry it out, so we have to mix it to dry it out before we can even get rid of it, so.
Yeah. You guys work so hard.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the last announcement is, the April 9th work session will take place in the Baldwin PD training facility, which is right back here directly behind the Baldwin Police Department. That's because we have court in here, fire, okay. Any announcements from council? Any announcements from staff?
You can also sign up for cleanup in here. We will take your names if you guys want to.
That's what
Yeah, I need that.
We will take it right
Service,
now.
we wanna,
Yeah.
we have Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, we have service hours.
Yeah.
It's a really good event, you get Chick-fil-A lunch after.
And you get to come hang out with the cool
Yeah.
kids.
It's a good way to know.
Don't forget to print that.
Okay, it is late, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that
I'll make
motion.
that motion.
I will take the motion from Councilman Keith, and I will take the second from Councilman Spencer. All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
One of these days, I'm gonna, thanks, Mark. One of these